Hey everybody. Okay, well, so we have survived, I think, what is the beginning of week 4 of this insane quarantine, stay at home, pick whatever word you want. So we're going to do a little bit more in-depth video today. I have had a ton of requests for just more information. And so while we prefer to do that kind of thing on a one-to-one coaching because it tends to lend itself a little bit more to your specific situation, we're going to dive in on just a more diverse topic. And if one of these hits home for you on some concerns that you're having about your own business, then reach out and we'll do the one-on-one that we need. Because I can assure you that what we're going to talk about today is probably not enough information to really get you where you're going, but it may jog some thoughts as to where you need to go next. So let's start with how we're all handling being in a different environment than what we're accustomed to. I think that there's a fine line in some of the videos that we did originally when we started this whole work from home or adjusting our work staff. Many of us laid off employees, things like that. We talked about taking this time to really look at our business, see if it could shift, and use the time to assess and maybe continue working. And that message, for those of us who are fortunate enough to own the business, I know we don't always feel like we're fortunate in those moments, but it was a call to continue working on your business, not in your business. For those of us who maybe had been laid off and work with Oxygen or have considered working with Oxygen on a one-to-one basis, it was a call to continue handling your portfolios and your customers, to stay in touch with them. Don't lose track, don't crawl under a rock, just to stay in contact with your portfolios and don't get lost in the shuffle. Not to mention the fact that it keeps your brain moving, and from an emotional and mental health perspective, it keeps you working. Then as we've approached the longevity, I know where we're located, we're now on week 4. The call to continue working has become difficult. Depending on what type of business you have, either you are essential, you're deemed essential and you're still working, your staff is still working, you just change the parameters in which you work, or you're not working at all. There's a whole other extreme of people that we're still continuing to coach. But the focus has shifted a little bit. And I think what we need to be aware of here is the fine line between working and killing ourselves. What a lot of us are accustomed to doing is working 10, 12, dare I say 14 to 16 hours a day, whether you're an owner or an individual contributor or whatever your role holds, to maybe not working quite as many hours. You shouldn't nearly be working those many hours now, and just what it looks like. This time, let me be very clear, no matter what your role looks like right now, this time should be helping you redefine what things like rest look like, what things like healthy eating look like. And I realize that brings up all kinds of other topics like your mental health and your budget and all of those little itty bitty things. And that's why I said in the beginning of this video, we could need to delve deeper in. And our coaching staff is more than happy to bring up calls. Our calls are doubled in time right now. What you used to coach for 15 minutes is now 30. So if any of these things trigger, we'll talk about it offline so that you can have a more in-depth call. But your time right now, 4 weeks in, it could be generated with worry. It could be generated with struggle and you're unsure and all of those things. But your time right now should be focused on making sure you are getting enough rest. You are getting the nutrition that your body needs. You are getting some fresh air and some exercise. All things that no matter how A type or B type personality you are, we all tend to neglect at some point in the chaos of all of our running around. Our kids are overscheduled. We are overscheduled. We don't sleep well. We medicate ourselves to sleep. We eat too much takeout. All of the things that aren't good for us, that suppress our immune systems and don't let us rest well, and all of those things, those need to be our focus. And we're going to talk about business here and some of the other things that you can take some notes on and go back on. But I will encourage you with every fiber of my being. If you are watching these videos, the likelihood that you are not a client is probably pretty high. My clients see another set of videos. So take this time, however many weeks in we are. And honestly, if you're watching this video after we've been through this whole COVID-19 chaos, take time to care for yourself. You have to rest. You have to rest without medication. You have to, without sleeping aid. You have to shop on the outside of the grocery store. You have to be able to steam vegetables and eat those well. We have to be a healthy nation so that our economy can then be healthy because it's run by our people. And this is absolutely 1000% a pedestal I will get on and stand on. But I think at this point, we will in our lifetime hopefully never see this opportunity where we can sit in our homes for 4 weeks ever again. And it should be a wake-up call. And ironically, we're going to talk about a wake-up call in our businesses again, but this should be a wake-up call as to what we really would do with our time if we didn't have to go to work. So next time you go to the grocery store, shop on the outside ring before you shop on the inside. The inside's good for our pantry, and we do have to be willing to be aware of those things, but shop on the outside first. Go for a walk. Walk your dog. Everybody's dog is probably sick of their humans right now, but walk your dog, love on your babies. Check in with the relationship with your significant other. I know that it can be challenging, and sometimes this is taxing to be with your significant other, especially when businesses, my experience, business is hard on a relationship. Growing up, it was hard to watch my parents do that. It was hard on my own marriage, and for those of you who know my personal story, I am divorced, we owned a business and ended up divorced. It is hard, and you may need to reach out to resources in the process of this, but this should be a time where you have an opportunity to really assess those things. And there are resources available to you during this time to sort that out. We will hopefully never again in our lifetime have 4 weeks while we're given the opportunity to be home. When I made the choice to start Oxygen a few years ago, this is what I wanted. I wanted an opportunity to be home, and I've had quite a few steps and stumbles on the way trying to get it off the ground and really build our clientele and things like that. But I needed an opportunity to be home with my children. I had been afforded some amazing opportunities up until that point to be able to kind of make it work, but my own personal health had taken a toll. My children's the toll on my children's emotional health had been great, and my relationships, and losing my dad. And it was time for me to be able to be well, both professionally and physically and mentally. And this is what it was going to take. And I had to give up a lot of things to be able to do this. So understand that when I say these things, I speak from a place of knowing what it takes to make that happen. It's going to be uncomfortable, and you got to know. Ironically, I was talking to a girl, just kind of chatting back and forth, and excuse my language, but you got to sit in that shit. You got to learn to be uncomfortable and know why and when and how that kind of thing happens. So while I challenge you to be okay with doing nothing and resting isn't sitting on the couch eating cheese puffs. Resting is learning what it takes to sleep well, learning what it takes to cook vegetables and eat chicken and walk and sit in the sun and talk to your children and talk to your significant other and not scream and watch a funny movie or, whatever. And I understand that there are struggles. I understand that money could be getting tight. I understand that health insurance is an issue and that you have potentially laid people off or that homeschool is difficult and all of those things. But compartmentalize some of those things and enjoy the time that you have, because it is hopefully never going to be an option to have 4 weeks like this ever again. I hope we don't ever have this problem ever again. So let's talk business. That can be my tirade for just a little bit. We are clearly starting to come out of this. And no matter what your politics are, no matter what your economics are, we are starting to kind of come out of this 4 weeks, 5 weeks in, depending on where you live nationally in the US. We are starting to kind of come out of this. But knowing that business will be different, whether you are essential and you never really shut your doors or whether you're getting ready to go back to work, business will be different. This was your wake-up call. The question was, were you ready for this, or did you just get a holy crap moment? And if this were to ever happen to you again, you would need to have things be done differently. You would need different amounts of cash reserve. Your benefits to your employees would need to be in a different place. You would want them to be in a different place. You would want to offer different things. Your customers would need to be cared for differently. So one of the things, if you are both an owner-operator, an owner, if you have a portfolio of people that you're taking care of, I would, one of the things I think you should write down is what it looks like now and what you would ideally like it to look like if this ever happened to you again, because it should be one of the things that you work towards once things are back up and going. What worked for you in this, and what would you have liked it to be different? If you didn't have any cash in reserve, or you thought you had plenty of cash in reserve and you're out 4 weeks in, then clearly that wasn't enough. From a strategy standpoint, is your accountant saying, hey, we did awesome, we're great, we're good? Or did you not have an accountant and you need to be looking for one? Whatever those things look like, that needs to be something that you write down. So what did you need to do different in terms of cash, benefits, your customers, all of those things? Your clients are going to interact with you differently going forward. They're going to spend their money differently. Everybody is going to come out of this, not necessarily scared, but with a different perspective. Everyone who has been told for all of these years, if your income went away today, how much money do you have in your savings? We've watched lines at food banks, and the CEO of a massive, I'm gonna go blank here, but a food bank was interviewed today. They don't have enough volunteers. The donation money and the hours and hours that cars are in line. It's unprecedented. Well, I promise I hate that word, but it is. So did you find yourself with enough personal cash reserve, and how will you spend your money going forward? Everyone is going to be in that boat. So if you were a customer, would you spend money with you? How will your customers interact with you going forward? Their priorities will be different. I don't know about you, but I've been in my home for 4 weeks. I'm ready to totally remodel. It's just one of my things I like to do. And I live in a fairly new home. I'm ready to paint. I'm ready to, clean. I hired somebody to come in and clean my carpets. Those types of things are going to be on people's radar. So think about your business from a consumer standpoint and what can you do to stay high on that priority list, since people will be spending their money differently. For those of you who have the ability to reach your clients now, use this time to improve your reach or your following. And we talked about this from the very beginning. What we don't want to see happen is, and this is something that we talk about a lot, anybody with a social media following is doubling down, tripling down on any kind of outreach that we have. You're trying to keep people in a positive mindset, but a very realistic mindset. Here at Oxygen, it's a matter of keeping people centered. We're not trying to blow smoke at you and make this into something that it's not, but where are you right now? And we're always working on that. It's just a matter of being aware, being present. No gaslighting, no, that's not going to get anybody anywhere. While we need to have a futuristic outlook and we need to be aware and we need to be able to see forward and we need to be able to see in the past, the present is what's happening to us. And that's where we remain agile. So we need to be able to expand our reach, expand our following now, and get people to know who you are. What do you stand for? Where are your convictions? What does your business offer? How does that impact them now? What kind of reach are you doing to help your employees? Who is willing to share? And then when you're back up and going, you already have a larger following than you had before. It's a lower cost of customer acquisition in a time where you really don't want to be spending money to acquire customers. And then when it's time to actually sell, you have a broader reach. So take your time now to be doubling down on your social media, spending lesser money where you can with messages that impact how people are seeing what you sell. And like I said, this is not an attempt to blow smoke at people and be the eternal optimist and things like that. However, people have had a reality smack in the face. So how does what you sell or the services that you offer impact them even in the near future? And I think that that's where you're going to see an impact in your following and getting people to share your message. A very value-driven type of environment. So that brings me to my next point. And this is one that you're going to have to, again, write down and go back to. And you may have to discuss it amongst maybe your executive team if you have one. If you're a sole proprietor or an individual owner, discuss it with your mentor or your spouse. Know what you're getting rid of and then what you're for sure wanting to go back to. There are a lot of things that we do that come out of a snap reaction. We need this to happen because it's affecting us right now. But that doesn't mean that it's something that we need to have long term. It also can tend to start costing us money. And we talked about this when we talked about trimming the fat a few videos ago. You can always go back and watch some of our videos. They're all live on our YouTube channel at all times. What is it that you now, in retrospect, you've had a few weeks to look at it, don't want to go back to? I talked about some personal things on a video before. There are some things I don't want to go back to. There are some things that I'm happy our life has kind of calmed down. My kids are a little bit older. My son doesn't really, his schedule it does not affect mine really at all. My daughter's schedule has just totally quieted. And for those of you who have an 18-year-old daughter, you know that a quiet 18-year-old daughter is a wonderful thing. And she has some anxiety. She's a senior in high school. She's getting ready to finish a portion of her degree in college as well. She has a different kind of anxiety. But hanging out with her mom, her mouth is a little quieter. So there are things we don't want to go back to. And then there are some things that we're in a rush to go back to. She would really like to have her job back. She would really like to get back to her friends. And we're a little anxious about graduation and prom, some things that she thinks she's missing out on. I have a niece who has a wedding in the influx. Be cautious that there are some things you don't have to go back to. You have to go back to paying your bills. I think we would all be happy to not have to go back to that. Decide now what's worth going back to, things that, sometimes maybe your team meetings, you need that camaraderie. But does everybody have to be back in the office every day? Maybe not. We talked about employees that do better with their dogs at their feet. You're learning a lot about your employees right now, or you should be. And if you're struggling with that, that is absolutely an ideal coaching situation where we can talk you through what you should be able to identify in employees, where they're excelling, where they're not. The next one to write down is to know your processes and remove your gates. I touched on this last week in one of the couple trainings that we put out. But one of the things that you're seeing, even in the national news right now, are the amount of gates that are being removed that are completely unnecessary and put in people's way just to substantiate people's jobs and take up time and money. So if you look at your business and you can write down what it takes to, just some easy ones, make a sale. What are the X number of boxes that everybody should be able to follow to make a sale? And that could be the sales process itself, how they sell to a customer, what happens after the sale is made. Maybe everybody should say, oh, these 4 things get said to the customer, or these 4 things happen after the contract is signed. What happens to send an invoice? What happens to book a service call? What are the things that are required for a one-call resolution when someone calls on customer service or has a complaint? What do we do to guarantee that there's a one-call resolution? If you cannot write those things down and work to remove gates, and then if I go to your manager, if I go to your first line customer service, your first line salespeople, and they can't tell me a pretty darn close, if not exact replica of those boxes that you wrote down, then that tells me we've got some gap in communication, and there may potentially be gates even there that you are unaware of. So know your processes. Communicate your processes. In the fire service, they're called SOGs, or standard operating guidelines, and everybody knows what those are. SOGs keep people alive. It's a chain of command. It is all of the things that are ultra important when there's an emergent situation. Do you have SOGs? Do you have something that is the lifeline of your business, and does everyone know what they are? And I'm not talking about legal rhetoric here. I'm talking about, can someone tell you to make a sale, I do these 4 things? The manager knows that if they sit co-side on their salesperson, they're going to see those 4 things and they know when to keep their mouth shut. And if you were to jump in on a call, you would be watching for those 4 things, and you keep your mouth shut and you don't say anything because you know those 4 things are going to happen. Same thing with a one-call resolution, booking a service call, all those things. Now is the time to write down what you think they are, and then to go asking as business starts to kind of come back, because this will allow a shift in your business. If you see that there's gaps, this is where you can start to shift business as it comes back on board. For those that think it's just going to be an opening of the floodgates for business, I tend to be someone who thinks it's not going to work like that. there's going to be too much hesitancy. There's been too much controversy. And I think that people are going to be just a little bit more hesitant than that, especially onboarding some of your employees back on. You're going to have a choice as to who you bring back on. So you're going to have an opportunity to have a say as to what that looks like, how that feels towards people, and what your business looks like as the economy comes back on board. So I think that with all that being said, this is a time where you have to give some consideration to what happens next. It's not a switch. It's not going to be like it was before. Too much has happened in 4 weeks. However, if you just come back to business as normal, you will have short-sighted yourself, and somebody else will have given it more consideration and will beat you. So my best advice to you is to give these couple of items some thought. What did you do in this situation that you would have done differently? What are you doing to improve the reach and add to your followings on social media or however you reach out to your customers? What are you getting rid of, and what are you for sure going back to? And what are your processes that are super important to how you do business? And what gates do you need to get rid of that are costing you time or money or any of those things? All of those topics are things that we can coach on. While I don't typically sell that type of service vehemently on these calls, I will tell you that these are some of the things we are talking about right now, because now that we're seeing business getting ready to ramp back up, people are looking to make sure they're ready. So you can reach out to us, oxygeneq.com. You can reach out to us on all of the social media platforms that I am intelligent enough to run. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We are on all of those sites. We are offering 1-hour training classes, either specifically for your organization or when we have enough time and interest, I will do a mashup. Those topics come in sales processes. So that boxed sales process, if you're looking for that, we can do that. Those come once a week for those of you who are looking to just join a group. Or if you're looking for it for your team, we can do once a week or every day for a week. We also have negotiation training and goal setting. And goal setting is our tie game theory, which means it's not normal setting goals like New Year's resolution stuff. That's not what that is. It's about identifying what the actual goal is and then exceeding it at least 150% month over month. So if you are unfamiliar with what that is, feel free to reach out and one of the coaches can explain it to you. They are live in-person trainings. They are not recorded at this point. But if you're interested for you or your team, feel free to reach out and we can get you whatever information you're looking for. So I hope everyone is staying well. I hope that you are just taking some time to rest so that your own creativity can come back to life. And I look forward to hearing from everyone. I know that this is a struggle and that there's lots of controversy coming from all of this, but in the end, I do believe that we are in a position to all rise again, and that is the most important part of the whole thing. So I hope everybody takes just a little bit of time to breathe life in, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Have a great day, everybody.